Hello everyone. So we have Avishek with us today. So Avishek applied in
Right.
round one, and Avishek got through Columbia Business School and Fuqua School of Business, which is Duke University. So he has like
Right.
two top 10 admits in round one itself. And so on today's video, what we are going to do is that we are essentially going to do three things. One is that we will speak with Avishek on how to apply as an unconventional candidate. So Avishek has a very interesting profile. We'll get that to in a minute. So that's one. Second is that we will speak about Abhishek's interview experience at Columbia Business School, and then finally we will briefly cover about his interview experience and application process at Duke. Okay. So Abhishek, for starters, if you can throw some light about your background, a little bit where you worked, how long have you been working?
Sure. Sure. So I'm actually from the media and entertainment industry in India.
Yep.
I've been with a news company for the last 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I was in FMCG industry. So it's quite a switch. And on top of it, I already had a MBA from India. So that was a bit challenging for me, but thankfully it all worked out. So yeah, this is on a brief about me.
Okay. So before we delve deeper into your background a little bit, so what was your thought process like? Why did you decide to apply to a 2-year MBA program? Because every year I work with a lot of applicants. In fact, I work with one of Abhishek's friend who's currently at NYU.
Right.
So he too had an MBA, right? And majority of the people who have done an MBA from India before, they end up applying to 1-year European programs versus 2-year conventional US programs. So what was your thought process on this?
Sure. So the first thing, Akshat, was as I told you, I want to pivot into consulting role, and I wanted as much as experience as I can have, including the summer internship, which usually isn't there with the 1 year experience. And second thing, I thought I still have around 25 to 30 years of experience ahead of me. Why not spend a year extra to get the maximum amount of experience or education experience that I can get? I'm pretty sure this is going to be my last one, so I wanted the maximum return out of it.
Okay.
And compared to 1 year or 2 years, was giving me a lot more opportunity. It was giving me more time to invest into learning, curriculum wise, and as well as experiential learning opportunities. And if you look at the US schools, they are mostly about 2 years, and that is where I see myself in the future. So I thought, why not?
Okay. So just a very quick recap in terms of what Avishek said. I'll just throw a little bit more light on this. So first and foremost, if you want to work in consulting, so I also come from a strategy consulting background. And if you want to work in the US has a very big consulting market. So Avishek's thought process of applying to a 2-year program was predominantly driven by the fact that he wanted to get into consulting. Since US has a very big consulting market, he wanted to go there compared to Europe. That was one. Second is that it's honestly people debate a lot between 1 year and 2 years, but honestly it's just like one additional year, and most of the people after graduating from top tier MBA programs, they don't end up working for 35, 40 years anyway. So they retire usually at a slightly younger age. So from that perspective, it's okay. It's you do a 1 year versus 2 year. The important point is to get into a good program. So with that said, Avishek, so what has the experience been of applying to business schools? What challenges did you face?
It has been, to be honest, a bit of a roller coaster for me. Uh, it took me a long while to understand that the most important thing is to commit to yourself or to really understand why you need to go into a B school. It took me a long time to solidify my long-term or short-term objectives that I want to be in a consulting industry. And it was only once I committed to my short-term objectives did I further understand how or why I want to be in a B school, which led me to better resource the schools, which is a better fitment for me. And that helps a lot in applications. Top 5 or the top 10 schools, there aren't really a lot of differences in terms of how they pose themselves. It is where you fit. I come from a media background and I want to go into consulting. So I needed a school which has the strength in both the industries. And so Columbia was the best choice for me. So it took a lot of time for me to understand which school I want to go and how to go about researching the school. And that is, most of where your time should be spent is what I believe.
Right. Okay. So a lot of candidates fear that, hey, if I'm not from conventional backgrounds like investment banking or management consulting, then I would not have a lot of success in terms of applying to business schools. So what would be your tip in terms of what unconventional candidates can do to improve their odds of getting through?
See, I think it can as well, it can very well play to your advantage as well. That you are standing out from the lot. You're from a different niche industry, which is a way for you to contribute more to the classroom to say.
Okay.
So you shouldn't really look at that as a negative point for you. What you should do is showcase that how have you contributed in whatever industry or whatever role you are in. That is very important.
Mhm.
And there are other aspects to your application. There's your GMAT, there's your academics, there's extracurriculars. So
Yep.
work on all those and don't really bother much on your niche industry.
All right. Okay. Now, in terms of like three good things or three sort of standout points that were for you, which you did really well during the admission process, what would those three specific piece of advice would be?
Okay. I was very sure on my short-term and long-term goals.
Okay.
To the point where I say that in my long-term goal, how am I actually going to be successful and why there is a need. Second thing, I was very well able to connect how that specific school is going to help me be there. I'm at X, I want to be Z. I was very well able to connect how the school would be able to help me reach that white stage. Uh, and C, I would say show your genuine interest in the school. So these are the three most important things that helped me.
All right, wonderful. So, all right. So, final question: how was the experience of working with us? We worked for a long time, so yeah, just a few comments on that aspect.
Uh, Honestly, I felt, Akshat, you are a very genuine person.
Mhm.
I never, I mean, I could really feel that when I was working with you, it was a very friendly relationship rather than a professional relationship, but I could literally bug you anytime I want. Uh, so thank you for that. That was really helpful. And you know, I worked with you during my initial stages where when I didn't really know what an MBA B school is looking for. So it really helped me understand, you know, how should I start preparing myself. Uh, so it was really great. I mean, I did a couple of research where I got a lot of feedback that most of the, you know, admission consultants have a very strict way to communicate and all that. With you, I had a lot of flexibility and a genuine interest from your side. So yeah, that is what I would say.
Thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it. So, with that said, let's move on to the second part of the video, which is about discussing Abhishek's experience of applying to CBS, Columbia Business School, and his interview experience. Right. So, Abhishek, if you can walk us through the entire process of how the interview happened, who conducted it, what happened basically after you submitted your application.
Um, so I submitted my application around 18th of August. My recommendation was a bit late, 25th of August. I got an interview invite, I guess, around 3.5 weeks later.
Mhm.
I faced a bit of trouble scheduling my interview, but it all was taken care. Thankful to the admission committee there. Uh, my so normally most of the previous interviews that I've heard of are very straightforward. It is basically why CBS, why New York, and everything. For me, it was slightly different. My interview was slightly experienced, and it was very much of a conversation. So we started. The starting of the 15 minutes was just generally speaking about my industry. Uh, it was really interesting. One thing I would say is, an interview, anything can come out of the interview. So you have to be prepared. Um, Something before the interview that I realized is I at times tend to get defensive. So while I was at the interview, I kept a clear head, and thankfully that helped. My interview was very conversation oriented. To be honest, there wasn't really any structure out of it. Uh, it was just a guy trying to gauge more knowledge about my industry, more insights about me and my interest in the Columbia University or the community and the New York and its or am I genuinely interested in the school? And that is about it.
All right, wonderful. So before we delve deeper into exactly how the interview went and the bifurcation of the questions, just a very quick note for people who are applying to Columbia. I think will be an important point for you to sort of learn about. That Columbia has an early action round, right, where your applications are read on rolling basis. So try to submit in that round because your application will get read fast. You'll be invited to an interview fast, and you will receive a decision sooner. So it's a good round to apply to. Majority of the Indians are like, if CBS is going to take like, let's say 20 Indians in class, then they at least tend to pick 10 Indians in this round itself, right? So make sure that you submit your application very, very early at Columbia. So that's a point that we missed speaking about earlier, but yeah, we are bringing it up now. Okay, so now Abhishek, speaking about the flow of the interview. So what, if you can briefly comment on what type of questions were covered?
All right. So again, Akshat, I wouldn't really classify my interview at Columbia to be the standard because the standard Columbia interview is normally 20 to 30 minutes only, directly into questions such as why Columbia, why New York, long-term, short-term goal, your strengths and weaknesses. For me, it was slightly different. It went on for like 75 to 90 odd minutes, and it was very conversational. We chatted about the Indian media industry for the 15, starting of the 15 of the first 15 minutes, and then it was more into what I want to do in my long term and how does Columbia fit in. Then it was how would I contribute into Columbia? What are my plans once I am there? And and a bit about New York. How is it advantageous? And again, which of the schools have I applied to, and how does those schools weigh in comparison to Columbia? So more this were sort of the way the interview went on, but again, it was very unstructured to be honest.
Okay, so just a few quick comments on this. So one is that because the Columbia interview is done by a current student or an alum, most of the times an alum, it tends to be a little bit unstructured. There is nothing off about it. It's just how alumni-led interviews work at almost every school. So, for example, INSEAD and London Business School also have alumni-led interviews, and usually these last for 1.5 hours also. So it's a slightly longer interview. It is going to be unstructured. That's two. Three, a wide range of questions would be covered, as Avishek pointed out that on his interview, literally like everything: why MBA, why now, why Columbia, comparison with other schools, everything is covered. So okay, so yeah, keep these points in mind. It's very, very important. And fourth and final point, which Abhishek spoke about, was that the interview was unstructured. The conversation was moving from point A to point C and D and E. It went very, very fast. So keep that in mind. That be prepared to answer any kind of questions that are being asked. But yeah, do your preparation well. So on that front, in terms of Columbia, what would you say the USP of Columbia is? So one is that they stress a lot on the interview with a fit of the school, especially why do you want to come to New York. Any other thing that you felt during the interview that the alum wanted to hear?
They wanted to hear about your outreach. Okay. Now, so I come from a very niche background from the media industry, and I want to transit to consulting industry. So I honestly got into touch like 15 to 20 alums, and that was one of the points that I ensured to communicate across during the interview, because that's a really important aspect on how interested are you into the school, or how well are you in touch with the school. That is something they really want to see.
Okay, wonderful. Now coming to the first point that I said, that about why New York. So how did you go about building your answer to that, or any tips that you would like to share on that question specifically for CBS?
See, again, the answer here would be very unique to individuals. from my niche background, I saw a couple of things. With Columbia, you would have master classes and guest lectures. Uh, for me, there's a guest lecture or master class in related to media industry. More importantly, there's a in semester opportunity that you get, especially because you are based out of New York. So I mentioned a couple of companies that actually relate to what I am doing and where I want to go. So that was really beneficial. And there's definitely the executive and residence, again a benefit of being in New York and Columbia. So we all make sure to sort of touch upon this point.
Okay. All right, wonderful. So, any kind of oddball questions that you felt were asked to you, or anything that where you fumbled?
Um, to be honest, there were a few. Uh, right from trying to gauge if media is biased.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
uh, honestly, you can't really prepare for this oddball question. The only thing which you can do is be honest there, and if you need, take a few seconds, but answer something. Because honestly, what they're trying to gauge there is not are you able to come with a perfect answer, but are you able to sort of come up with some answer as you would be expected to be as an MBA student, and are you genuine about it? That is all.
All right. Okay. Wonderful. So before we move on to Fuqua, any preparation tips that you would like to share with people who are applying to CBS, or anything that they should keep in mind, especially for the interviews?
Um, See, Columbia, the interviews, they're still just trying to gauge a couple of things. Um, are you really interested into Columbia compared to other B schools? How important is the New York City advantage for you? And any USP of Columbia that you have in your mind, and how do you contribute to Columbia? That is all.
All right, wonderful. So I hope that this discussion was helpful for people who are applying to Columbia and who are interviewing at Columbia. So best of luck to them, right? So with that said, let's move on to the last part of this video, which is just discussing a little bit about your interview experience at Fuqua. We already know that you would pick CBS over Fuqua, so we keep the Fuqua part short. So in terms of applications to Fuqua, what would be your tips, right, in terms of application writing? What are the areas that people should keep in mind who are looking to apply to Fuqua?
See, Fuqua is a very interesting school because it's a very community-oriented school. To be honest, I haven't really seen any other school that dedicated to create a feeling of collaboration. So that's a great point. And whenever you're applying to a school like Fuqua, you should ensure that how collaboration is also an important point for you. And while at Fuqua, how would you use this specific skill to not just improve yourself, but the school or the community in itself?
Okay, so what kind of examples did you use, or like if you can point out to one example in your case about collaboration or community that you highlighted?
All right. I have some amount of experience in non-profit education sector in India. At Fuqua, there are various opportunities like Fuqua on board, where I got to know about some very cool NGOs based out of Durham area, which matches from my current experience. So I mentioned how would I be able to use my current experience to associate with those institutions via a platform like Fuqua on board to further the community there, something like that.
All right, okay. Wonderful. So, Abhishek, now speaking about your interview experience at Fuqua, what were the primary differences between your interview at Columbia and Fuqua?
Okay. Um, so my Fuqua interview was to begin with very short. It was 25 to 30 minutes, and a lot more pivoted towards why Fuqua and how about experiences relating to tough situations and judging your quality of collaboration again. So collaboration is not just for the application, even for the interview. The alum they truly believe in it. So a lot of your experience-based questions are going to be pivoting around that. So there was more focus on collaboration and more focus on why Fuqua. and pretty much about it, I would say. I mean, it was still an alum interview, so yeah.
All right. So, anything off or anything else that you would want to share about Fuqua's interview? Because I'm assuming that the set of questions that were asked to you were standard because it was a 25-minute interview. So, why
Right.
MBA? Why MBA now? Why Fuqua? With little bit of stress on why Fuqua and community
Yeah.
part. But yeah, anything that you would want to share, which was oddball or which you felt out of place?
For Fuqua, it was sort of, he was more interested, or he was digging me up on my long-term goal.
Okay.
So in my long term, I mentioned that I want to be a consultant back in India to help the digital media platforms. Just ask very specific question that what do you think if China is a good market for it? Thankfully, I had done some research for the application, so that helps. But so the tip would be whatever you're writing in the application, be or whatever you're saying in the interview, be sure you know 2 steps more than that.
Okay. All right. So, any final words that you would want to share with people who are skeptical of doing an MBA from abroad, especially who have done an MBA from India before and who are coming from a very non-conventional background?
Um, To be honest, it has to be a very personal decision if you want to go for a second MBA and from US. For me, it was very clear. I wanted to pivot into a different industry, and I wanted to challenge myself. To be honest,
Mm-hmm.
uh, what I would say comparing Indian MBA from US MBA. Well, I haven't yet started my US MBA journey to say,
Mm-hmm.
but I still feel it's a lot different from the experience that you get in India. It's there are lot more experiences. So if you're just crossing off your US MBA plan because you think it's going to be similar to your Indian MBA, I would say don't do that.
Okay. All right. Okay, wonderful. It was great having you, and best of luck. And congratulations
Right.
once again for
Thank
packing
you.
two top tier business schools from the US. So wonderful having you, and really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I know it.